checking on me and they stepping up. Then we ain't laughing if you do, they ain't betting on me, stay flexing. No, I ain't sweating on you.
What's up, y'all? The name's Trey. Love to listen. Let's get to it. So today's goals are twofold. First, we're going to talk about some taboo reasons why dating may not be working for you. And I'm going to try to do so in a gentle and loving way. And second, information is great, but I'm going to try to get us to connect to our problems and solutions in a more emotive way by creating music based off of today's conversation. And the catch is that I haven't started creating this music at all, and I'm only giving myself 48 hours to do so. This will be a two-part video, and in this video, I'll give you 4 specific tips on how to bring your full self to the table to help you attract the right person. In the next video, we'll talk about when you have a specific person in mind and how to make sure that that doesn't end prematurely. So altogether, I'll actually be creating 2 songs in 4 days, averaging 48 hours each, which I've never done before, so pray for me. And while we're chatting, I'll be doing some mobility exercises. I have this little band with me. When I was in Rio recently, I got this massage and it was making me do some stretches, and I was like just extremely tight up here, and I'm trying to figure out how to loosen that up. I felt a little weak lately in my chest and my bench pressing, while some of my other lifts are actually increasing. So I'm just wondering, maybe it's some rotator cuff issues that I'm feeling and needing to get a little bit resolved. So I'll be doing some of that. And I've already been to the gym today, so this will be more of me doing some static stretching, meaning you hold it, because I don't necessarily need to warm up. Before I jump into these 4 tips for you, just wanted to share a little bit more about myself. It's interesting doing this channel where I talk nonstop because traditionally in my family and my friend groups, I'm more of the listener. I ask a shit ton of questions. And what drives me is this curiosity about people, about their stories, and it's expanding my worldviews, which I think is just so important in today's society, as well as today's gay world. And all of this led me into getting my master's in writing from Columbia University, just because I was so interested in all these stories and these gay stories and how to create emotion out of it. I've had a number of boyfriends and situationships, had long bouts of being single as well. I just want to be able to share some of what I've learned over the years that I often share with my friends in case it's helpful to you all. You may look at me and assume that I'm superficial and I'm only attracted to guys with the perfect faces and perfect bodies. One thing that I think is just so interesting in culture right now is the rise of the bears, the recent trend with like the whole bear smile. I just think it's great. Like anybody who fits outside of the Western standards of beauty, of being lean and muscular. I mean, they're bears, for God's sake. Even if we're talking about a short king who stands tall, confidence is sexy, which of course is what everyone says. And today we're going to go a little bit deeper than that. And by the way, it's not lost on me that a lot of guys like to be single for the summer, but I can also tell you that it's a fantastic time to get into a relationship. You can have a guy who's at your beck and call all summer. You want to go to a pride party without losing your friends? Well, you have someone by your side. If you want to go on a sudden summer getaway trip, you have a person who's there who'll be interested. A romance under the summer sun can provide an unbreakable bond. It's when you notice and you realize this person has been there for you this entire summer and has avoided all the thirst traps of the other guys. That can build loyalty and trust. So it actually is a great time to start building foundations that will last a long time. If you can make it through summer, you can make it through any other time of the year. All right, let's get to the tips. Let me preface this by saying that I know this can be a touchy subject, and I am giving general advice to the masses. What works for one person may not work for another. These are ideas for if you feel like you've exhausted all of your efforts. So from my experience, there are 2 types of gay men who are single who don't want to be. The first is the enthusiastic gay who's looking for love in all the wrong places. And the other type is the one who just loves to say that I'm too picky. For either case, I do think that chemistry, having compatible goals, and being in the right place at the right time are fundamental in finding a lasting partner, but I'll talk about some ways to go the extra mile. First is to know what kind of relationship you want. And there are at least 4 different areas that come to mind. First is, do you want an exploratory relationship or something more serious? So by exploratory, I mean a relationship where you can learn either more about yourself or about other people or how you relate to people. And we all seem to understand this when we're teenagers, maybe when you're in your early 20s, that you're just dating and you're getting to know people and it won't last forever. But we seem to forget this as we get older. It's very possible that you're a man in your 40s who needs an exploratory relationship. You actually don't need something serious yet. You might need a man who's going to help you break down your walls, or maybe you have some certain trauma around sex and they're going to help you release that. In an ideal world, your partner shouldn't have to bear the burden of fixing you. And you may say that that's the job of a therapist, but even a therapist can't do that alone. You're going to need to be able to get out there. You're going to need to test the waters with men. You're going to have to put yourself in situations with them. Just because you're testing the waters with them doesn't mean that this person, the people that you're meeting, need to actually be there forever. So that's why it can be about exploring or re-exploring men so that you can get firsthand experience of what you actually need, so that you don't rush or make illogical decisions on who your long-term partner will be. And sexually speaking, I think the best person to get to develop your sexual tastes and interests and know your body is with someone you're with more than once. Someone who is there more than just a one night stand or a hookup. And that person doesn't need to be there forever. Your sex teacher does not have to be your long-term partner. 2 of my friends actually started dating, and early on in the relationship, they realized that they weren't actually perfectly compatible, although they still enjoyed each other's time. They were very clear about this from the beginning with each other, and when it eventually ended, they were still able to be friends. This is part of what I mean. It's about communication. There's nothing wrong with being in an exploratory phase of your life, needing to explore in a relationship. If you can communicate that with your partner, you're golden, especially if they're on the same page as you. The second part of this is, do you want something seasonal or long-term? Which is a little bit similar, but different because maybe you don't need to explore. You know who you are and what you want, and it's just nothing that's long-term. It might also just be like a cuffing season sort of thing. Maybe you're just have some fear of commitment. Really, you can't force yourself to want a long-term relationship if deep down that's truly not what you want. On the flip side, if you want a long-term relationship, are you actually ready for your forever person? And is your forever person actually ready for you? We're going to go a little bit more into that later. The third part of this is, how open do you want it to be? Do you want a closed relationship? Do you want an open relationship? Do you want a relationship that starts off closed, then opens up? I'm sure we all have some thoughts about open and closed relationships, but that's just something that I think is really great to communicate with your partner from the beginning. I understand, of course, people can change their mind, but if you already have a certain expectation in your mind, then it'll be a lot easier to work through that with your partner. And the fourth part of this is, do you want a traditional relationship or something more progressive? There's so much that could be said about wanting a traditional relationship, something that follows more of the gender roles that are established within heterosexual relationships. And if that really makes sense for you and your man, you and your same-sex relationship. I'm not going to go into all of that right now, but that's something you need to decide. If you actually do value traditional relationships, you need to be open and clear with your partner about that, because in this day and age, a lot of gay men, queer men, are just going to assume you want something a little bit more progressive. So establishing those boundaries from the start and expectations from the start is going to be extremely beneficial to attracting the right person for you. Overall, a lot of guys aren't honest with themselves, which makes them dishonest with their partners, or withholding information, whatever you want to call it. It's human to not have all the answers, but the more answers that you have, the easier the relationship will be, and the less feelings that'll get hurt. Some of these stretches are actually very hard, and I am trying my best. Anyway, point 2 is to develop your resume. So for a moment, I want you to think of dating like a job that you're excited for. You have to stylize yourself in a certain way to be presentable. You have to be on time for date nights. You've got job responsibilities like doing your household chores. Your performance review is those date nights when you deep dive into things that are going well and things that aren't. And your paycheck is when you get to orgasm. Kidding. It's when you get to feel loved and feel trust and connection. Now ask yourself, are you actually ready for this job? Are you the best person for this job? And if a person were looking at your resume, why would they choose you over someone else? A friend was telling me how she went on a date with a very professional guy, and the conversation naturally turned to, what are you looking for in a relationship? And he started saying things like, well, I've been in some short-term relationships, learned things from that, been in long-term relationships, learned things from that. I've traveled with partners, there are a lot of lessons. I've lived with a partner, there were lessons. I've learned how to bring my partners around my family. I've learned how to disagree respectfully. I've learned how to rekindle love and affection after the honeymoon phase ends. These are all things that are on his dating resume that might make him a really good candidate for a relationship to a lot of people. We all have dating resumes, and again, this isn't advice that is necessarily for everyone, but if you are struggling, just ask yourself why someone would choose you over another. They might choose you for the unpaid internship, but why would they choose you for the long-term full-time employment with benefits? So the question is, how can you build up your dating resume while still being true to yourself? Some hard truths. Well, a lot of guys aren't interested in virgins. A lot of guys aren't interested in men who've never had condomless sex. All of these things are on your dating resume or not. And I'm not saying to go out there and slut yourself out because it's going to make a man more attractive to you, but just be aware of who you might be interested in and what absences from your dating resume might stick out to them. Also on your resume might be whether or not you came out to your family, whether or not you've posted a boyfriend on social media, whether or not you've lived with another man. These are big things. And of course, certain things on your dating resume may actually be red flags to certain people. If you're struggling, try to find someone who has a similar dating resume as yours. And then you can explore whatever you want to do together. It doesn't have to be that difficult. The third tip is to consider whether your pickiness is justified or not. I'm going to say something that's going to sound a little bit controversial, might make me sound like the bad guy, but it's going to come full circle, so hang in there with me. I have a genuine question. When someone tells you that they're single because they're too picky, do you believe them? I think for me, maybe like 10% of the time do I genuinely buy that their preferences are why they're single. But other times I'm not so sure. It can feel like it's just a cop-out answer. And of course, that's not my business. If they're hiding something, they're hiding something. But I just wanted to go into that just a little bit more. So an example of where I totally buy it, like say you're a tall, lanky guy and you just happen to be a bottom and it's very hard to find any guy who wants to top you. So that already cuts the population down. Plus you happen to have a PhD, so you only want to entertain guys with a certain intellect. That cuts the population down. Then say this person also has a particular religion or cultural needs, or they only date within their race. You cut the population down again. Yes, I can totally understand situations where they are too picky. What they need is too specific, and that's why they're single. Although I do wonder if this person would call themselves picky and not just in a particular situation. I do completely buy that some people are overqualified for the general public. But to play devil's advocate, there are just so many things that we don't know that people are going through. Maybe someone is saying they're picky because they don't want to tell you that they have a certain medical condition. Maybe they get overly anxious when they're meeting guys. Maybe they have performance anxiety, something where it needs a particular man who's willing to go through these steps with them. And that's why they're saying they're too picky. It's not my goal to judge anyone. I'm just putting it out there that, are you saying you're picky because it actually makes sense? Or has capitalism and meritocracy invaded your mind Has perfectionism gotten to you so deeply that you're single? The fourth tip is to be your best possible self. So, what I mean is, say you're only putting 60% of your effort, of your free time into your body, your appearance, whatever makes you attractive, but you could be putting 80% in. Why would someone choose you when they can go after a person who's just like you, but who's willing to put in the 80 to 90% effort? It's easy for most people to say that they're single because men are extremely superficial. I don't think it's all about the muscles and the pretty things. It's largely about finding someone who's just doing their best. You may not have the best genetics, but if you're using that as a scapegoat to be sloppy about your appearance, to not wash your face, to stop eating vegetables, who's gonna go after that losing mentality? I am a romantic, but in some ways it truly just does come down to competitive advantage. What do you have that the next person doesn't have? Why would someone choose you over the next? Yes, you've got a cute ass and great personality, but so does the next guy, and he's also doing other couple things too. It's not all about the superficial. These things communicate consistency, that when the going gets tough, you can keep up and stick to the plan. And that's where it gets back to the romantic. This is a metaphor for relationships that people actually do see. I want to know that when things get hard, you won't falter. I want my partner to have grit. If I get sick or depressed, I need to know that my partner won't bail. At the start of a relationship, these are the only telling signs: how you treat your body, how you treat your job, all the little things in your life. Are you consistent with them? I recently saw the quote, "How you do anything is how you do everything." I'm not so sure that's entirely true, but that is what people are going to think when they meet you for the first time. If you don't want gays to focus on your appearance, just make a damn good first impression that shows you've got resilience in some other way. And please do it. I am rooting for you, absolutely. The other half of this is that there's something very comforting about saying, my partner can't get much better than this. Because the opposite is when this person isn't trying, when you're asking yourself, why are they not putting in effort? Do they not have ambition? Are they okay with mediocrity in every aspect of their life? And most importantly, why am I spending so much energy trying to figure out how to make them a better person? That's not my job. Be a person who a potential partner doesn't have to think about improving. Doesn't mean you're perfect, but you're clearly on the right track. Of course, there are always caveats like, yes, your partner is going to want to teach you how to style your bedroom a little bit better, whatever it may be. But that is very different from you putting in little effort in several aspects of your personality. And by the way, when it feels like you're putting in little effort, guys will actually wonder if you have poor social circles, which is not a good thing because most gays actually want better social circles. Part of being your best self is surrounding yourself with quality people. And I can say personally that I try to meet my partner's friends early on in a relationship because it can tell you a lot about them. If the friends are a little bit off, if I feel like I don't fit in, then it tells me that my partner might not be moving in the direction in life that I initially thought. And this is by no means me trying to tell you to overanalyze your friends, stop being friends with people. Just saying that you might find more success if your future partner gets along with your friends. And I'm sure that there are some nerdy guys who are watching this and are objecting about what it means to be your best self. Let me frame it this way. I think it can be better to hedge your bets. Instead of putting all the eggs into one basket, instead of pouring 100% of your free time into your anime, to watching TV, into your hobby, would it really be inauthentic to give these activities your 80% and then dedicate that other 20% to other aspects of your personhood? Especially if it's going to make you more dateable, why not? And if you're really nerdy, think of it as establishing passive income. Dedicate some of your time to improving yourself, things that other people are really attracted to, and just do it at first. Then you don't actually have to think about it. It's actually a little bit of what I did. Growing up, I was the ugly duckling of my brothers. I didn't play sports, didn't look good, was much larger than I am now. And after college, I decided to spend some time on learning how to eat right, learning how to do fitness. I'm also 6'5". It was hard to find clothes that I felt looked good on me. I invested some upfront time in learning what styles and brands work well for my body. And now at this point, yeah, nothing's perfect and it's still a learning journey, but I definitely don't have to worry about it as much. I don't have to obsess about it. If you just put some initial time into a thing, it'll keep giving. And to reiterate, I'm not saying you need to look any specific way, but it is a fair question how you make the best of the cards you were dealt in life. And I love to complain. I love to complain as much as the next person. And so it's okay if you need to articulate the stresses of the particular situation you're in, but I hope that you're also putting in real effort. And on a more positive note, be proud that you're LGBTQ. If I were a straight guy giving advice, here's some of what I've heard. Learn how to approach a girl or chase a girl. Get your weight up. Build muscle. Grow your facial hair or chest hair. Be more dominant. Learn how to sit so you don't look gay. Or maybe I'd tell you to carefully monitor your masculinity so you don't come off too aggressive or not like a beta either. Fortunately, I don't have to say any of that to you. There's a lot of room for authenticity in the gay community, but sometimes being authentic means bringing more of your true self to the table, not less. Awesome. I hope you found some of this resonant. And this is only the beginning. I have a ton of great tips coming for you in the next video. So we're going to get started on the music creation. Right now it is 8:24 on Sunday. So that'll give me 4 days until Thursday to create these 2 songs. And I'll just be demoing one of the songs for you in this video. Stay tuned. Hey, so it is nearly 24 hours before the end of the challenge, and I'm exhausted. It's a lot to produce a song, write a song, and perform the song in a span of 28 hours, but I'm doing it. I'm about done with the music side of things, and I'm about to go take a break, have a good chest workout in the gym. Actually, right now, I'm using some of the music to underscore this. And don't be mad at me because I did cheat a little bit with this music challenge. So, I'm a lyricist, music producer, and playwright. And so I was actually working on this rap musical for the stage. And back in October 2023, I came up with this hook that was almost perfect for the end of the show, but not quite. So it never really made it. And it just kind of stuck in my head. And it made a lot of sense for what I was looking for this time. So I decided to steal that hook. It is old, not brand new for this challenge. However, I never wrote down the lyrics. It was only in my music notes. So in a way, this is my first time actually more making the lyrics official by putting it into writing. And also with that, I only wrote the hook, not even the verses. So the verses are brand new. Actually, I haven't even written the verses yet, and we're only 24 hours out. But what I'm envisioning is something a little in the style of TLC's Waterfalls that tells 3 different stories. The first is about a guy who's trying so hard to fit in terms of how he looks, but feels like he's always missing the mark. And he always wishes that people would appreciate his interior instead. However, since he just focuses so much on his broken exterior, he's kind of not even sure who's left on the inside. The second is about a handsome guy who's only viewed as a kink or as a gay fetish and not as someone who you could bring home to your family or friends. And the third is from a first-person perspective about longing for love. I haven't written these verses yet, so please keep watching to see how the story unfolds. What's up? I'm back in my corner. It is Thursday at 8:41, so nearly 20 minutes after the official end of the challenge. But I forgot to factor in that I was making 2 videos, and after I finished filming the first one, it took at least half an hour or so to film the second one. So we are on time, and I have something for you. One thing about me is that I enjoy putting myself in others' shoes. So this song, the lyrics aren't necessarily my experience, but I still find this music to be very meaningful to me. All right, let's just jump into it.
Imagine driving down the road, so far neutral is down. Johnny's lived one hell of a night, but tipsy but still upright. Well, the boys fighting so right, even this temperature's turning blind eye. Back on the mass, leave the backlash. Baby's got the muscle underneath the fat. He wants to be right, no matter what. He gets into he looks at the net. I see the naked pain in his eyes, sinful etched all over his height. But he's gonna smile, but all sides his things can line him out this time. Driving round till they seem beyond, but beneath the empty inside. I'm waiting for someone to know, and I'm feeling alright. I was waiting for you, and I'm solo, and I'm solo. I'm waiting for someone to know, and I'm feeling it alright. He's waiting for me, and I'm solo, and I'm solo. If there's a guy who's not out of his mind, he's down the times, pretty face and heart that can shine. Yeah, he's fine, but he fucked up a vice or two. Dudes only think he's used to lose values. He's a kid, they don't care what he thinks as long as it's vicious. I'm not gonna dance with your deeper streets. When he speaks, it's progressive and mean defensively. Not up with a family to ever meet. I'm waiting for someone to end, and I'm feeling it alright. He's waiting for me, and I'm solo, and I'm solo. I'm waiting for someone to end. I'm gonna get on. He's ready for me. And I'm walking down the street, watching where my feet will take me. I'm not a freak, I'm just doing me. Please tell me that I'm gonna be okay someday. Out of apologies for the cards that I've played. Only possibility, I'll lead my knees to the road where I'm born, never sold my tiny hopes. If you hear me, please tell me how to be okay. If you see me, please cry straight into my drums. I'm waiting for someone.
Thank you so much for listening. This is just a demo song, and definitely that second verse is pretty short and easily could be expanded in another version of this. All right, so what did we talk about? Know what kind of relationship you're looking for. 2, develop your resume. 3, consider whether your pickiness is really worth it. And 4, try to bring your best self to the table. Once again, I'm not saying that you need to do everything mentioned in this video, and I'm sure my tips do reflect some sort of personal bias. But if you are struggling and you feel like you have exhausted your search, give it a try. Please comment your best dating advice in case it helps someone else out there. Alright guys, hope you find your man. Till next time, this is Cam.